Today,
We'll cover everything from stencil to final shading, hair texture, and depth so you can master realistic lions.
wow, this lion tattoo looks so realistic. How do you even start with something so detailed?
Thank you. The very first step is preparing the stencil. I already designed the lion stencil, and you can take a screenshot to practice on fake skin. This helps you get familiar with the design before touching real skin. The stencil is like the blueprint for all the details, so precision here is crucial.
Oh, so practicing on fake skin really prevents mistakes later.
Exactly. You can test your hand pressure, needle angle, and overall flow on fake skin. It's a safe way to avoid messing up the real tattoo.
But how do you make sure the stencil stays sharp and doesn't smudge while tattooing?
I use Tattoo Farmer Transfer Solution. It keeps the stencil clean, sharp, and long-lasting. After applying it, wait a few minutes until it's completely dry before starting the outline.
Ah, that makes sense. A clean stencil is the foundation for realistic details.
Absolutely. Even a tiny smudge can ruin fine details like eyes, nose, or hair texture. That's why a solid stencil is key.
Once the stencil is ready, what's next? Do you just start outlining?
Yes, for outlining, I use a round liner RL needle. Stroke length is 4 to 4.5 millimeters, and machine speed around 7 to 7.5 volts. Focus carefully on main lines, facial details, eyes, and nose. Precision now makes shading more natural later.
Wow, so even tiny mistakes here could mess up the whole tattoo?
Exactly. Every line counts. A steady hand and consistent speed are essential. Precision in outlining is the foundation for all shading layers.
Why is outlining so crucial?
A precise outline guides all shading and hair details. Mistakes here make even perfect shading look unnatural.
Wow, so every line really matters. How do you decide which tone gray wash to start with when shading the lion?
Always begin with a light tone. It helps build soft layers gradually and gives more control. You can always darken later, but you can't easily lighten a dark tone once it's applied. I usually use 4 cups: light, medium, dark, and full black. For the light tone, I add 1 drop of black ink into the first cup and fill it with distilled water. The medium tone gets 2 to 3 drops, and the dark tone takes 4 to 5 drops. Always mix each cup well before dipping your needle. This ensures smooth, even shading without harsh spots.
Ah, so it's safer and smoother to build up the depth slowly.
Exactly. This gradual buildup is the secret behind smooth realism shading.
Now that the stencil is ready and the gray wash is mixed, how do we start the base shading?
We always begin with a mid-gray tone to build a foundation. This first shading layer defines the main light and dark areas of the lion. It's not about perfection yet, it's about structure and direction. I use RM needles for soft blending and RL for fine edge definition. My stroke length is around 4 millimeters and machine speed is between 7 and 7.5 volts. Stable, not rushed.
Why not start directly with darker tones? Wouldn't that save time?
Actually, no. Starting dark can ruin your depth control. The key in realism is to build the tone gradually from light to dark. Think of it like sketching. You start soft, then refine the contrast. Each layer adds more dimension and natural transition between shades.
That makes sense. So it's all about patience and building layers slowly.
Exactly. The slower you go, the smoother your transitions will look. Each stroke adds life to the tattoo. It's like painting with light and shadow.
Now we're getting into the dark shading. How do you make sure the shadows look deep, but still realistic?
That's where control really matters. I switch to a darker gray wash, usually cup number 3 or 4. Using RM needles, I start from the bottom areas, like the rock and under the paw. The key is to layer gradually, using short and steady hand movements. Each pass adds more depth, without oversaturating the skin.
Do you press harder when shading darker areas?
No, that's one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. You don't need more pressure. You need more passes and slower movement. Heavier pressure damages the skin and makes the tattoo look patchy. Instead, let the ink build up layer by layer.
So it's really about patience and rhythm, not force.
Exactly. Think of your hand as a metronome. Steady, rhythmic, and calm. That's how you get those perfect, smooth shadows.
And what about the contrast? How do you make the light and dark parts stand out naturally?
Contrast is what gives the lion its power. I build contrast in 3 layers. First, the base shadow, then mid-gray transitions, and finally, the darkest accents near the eyes, nose, and main edges. You never jump straight from light to black. The transition is what creates realism.
Wow, it's like sculpting with ink instead of clay.
That's exactly it. Realism is just controlled sculpting with light and shadow.
How do you create realistic mane and hair texture without it looking flat or messy?
Start by observing hair direction. Every clump of hair follows a flow from the scalp outward. I map those flows lightly with an RM pass to block in volume, then refine with RL for individual hair strands. Use RM for soft mass and RL for crisp single hairs. Keep stroke length around 3.5 to 4.5 millimeters, depending on area size.
Which needle combinations and angles give the most natural look?
Combine RM, soft shading, with RL, fine lines. Angle the needle slightly open, about 30 to 45 degrees for softer feathered strokes with RM. For RL hairlines, use a shallower angle, 15 to 25 degrees, to let the tip cut crisp, thin strands. Rotate your wrist slightly as hair direction changes. This keeps strokes fluid and natural.
How many passes and how to layer without making hair look muddy?
Build in micro layers. 1. Base mass with light RM, 1 thin pass. 2. Mid-tone hairs with slightly darker RM or small M1 passes. 3. Fine hair strands and accents with RL, short, deliberate strokes. Always dry the needle tip between passes if it drags, and give the skin a moment to settle. Avoid big, heavy passes. Prefer 3 to 6 thin passes over 1 heavy pass.
Any tricks to get that natural overlap and depth?
Use slight cross-hatching with very light passes, not full cross-hatch like etching, but micro overlaps where hairs intersect naturally. Vary stroke length and pressure subtly, so some strands read closer and others recede. Add tiny isolated darker accents near the base of tufts to anchor depth.
What are the frequent mistakes when doing mane texture?
Common errors. Pressing too hard causes swollen, blunt hair. Fix, lighten pressure and increase passes. Using same stroke length everywhere makes texture flat. Fix, vary stroke length 2 to 5 millimeters. Not following hair flow looks artificial. Study reference and map direction before inking. Overworking one area until it becomes muddy. Step back, let skin rest, then refine.
That's detailed. I can already see the mane coming to life in my head.
Use a small, flat F needle for broad texture base in the outer main areas. Long, smooth passes to support volume, then refine with RM and RL. Always check your work from a slight distance to ensure readable shapes and avoid tiny, over-detailed sections that read as noise on skin.
What's the secret to making the final details and highlights look realistic instead of fake or overdone?
The secret is restraint. Highlights should support the realism, not overpower it. I use diluted white ink or just lighter gray tones to create reflected light. especially around the lion's nose bridge, under the eyes, and whisker areas. Less is more here. You're not painting light, you're hinting at it.
What areas are most important to highlight in a lion realism tattoo?
Focus on the upper edge of the eyes to add wet reflection, the tip and sides of the nose bridge, the top edge of the muzzle. Select strands on the mane catching light. Never highlight symmetrical areas equally. Vary intensity to keep it dynamic and natural.
Do you use pure white ink for highlights?
Rarely, but in this tattoo, I didn't. Pure white can look chalky or age badly. I prefer to mix a drop of light gray or skin tone ink with white to soften it. Apply it only where contrast needs a subtle pop, like the corner of an eye or the wet edge of a lip. For fur or mane, dry whip tiny strokes to suggest light rather than laying solid white.
How do you know when to stop adding details?
When every part of your tattoo starts to speak together, that's your cue to stop. Step back 2 or 3 meters, look at the tattoo as a whole. If it feels cohesive and nothing screams for attention, it's done. Over-detailing is the enemy of realism. Perfection often means knowing when to stop.
What are the most common mistakes in this final stage?
Overusing white ink causes chalky or unnatural shine. 2, equal highlights on both sides kills realism. 3, forgetting light direction makes reflections inconsistent. 4, not cleaning the surface before white passes results in muddy highlights.
Wow, so it's not just about adding light, it's about balance and emotion too.
Exactly. The best highlights don't just show light, they express mood. Use them like punctuation marks at the end of your visual story.
Before we wrap up, how do you review your work and make sure everything looks right?
I step back about 2 to 3 meters and look at the tattoo as a full image. Then I use a soft light or phone flashlight to see how it reads under different lighting. I check 3 things. 1, contrast. Are the darks and lights balanced? 2, flow. Does the composition guide the eye naturally? 3, emotion. Does the tattoo feel alive? If all 3 align, it's done.
What are your final steps before calling it complete?
In real skin, I clean the surface gently, apply a thin layer of balm, and check for small inconsistencies under the light. Sometimes a single extra hair stroke or darker shadow brings the whole piece together. But I never rush. The last 5 minutes can make or break the tattoo's realism.
And what aftercare advice do you give to clients, especially for realistic lion tattoos?
I keep it simple but strict. 1, keep it clean. Gently wash twice a day with antibacterial soap. 2, keep it moist. Use a thin layer of healing ointment. Never over-apply. 3, avoid sunlight and scratching. UV light kills contrast. Scratching damages texture. 4, no swimming or heavy sweating for at least 10 days. 5, patience. A tattoo matures over weeks, not days.
What's the biggest mistake artists or clients make after finishing a tattoo?
For artists, overworking the skin at the end, trying to perfect it. For clients, ignoring aftercare, especially sun exposure. Both can destroy detail and brightness. Respect the healing process as part of the art itself.
That's powerful. It's not just technique, it's patience and respect too.
Exactly. Every tattoo is a story told through skin. Technique gives it shape, but patience gives it life.
How do you add those final touches that make the lion look alive?
I use a 3RL or even a single needle for ultrafine details like reflections in the eyes, fur highlights, and light around the nose. These micro touches create contrast and realism. Less is more here. Too much can ruin balance.
So those tiny white highlights can change everything?
Absolutely. They bring the lion to life. Just imagine one tiny dot in the eye can shift the whole emotion.
So when you're done, step back and view your tattoo from a distance. Realism isn't about perfection up close. It's about balance and life when viewed as a whole.
That was incredible. Every stage had something new to learn.
Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, share it with other artists. And don't forget to subscribe for more advanced tattoo tutorials. Don't miss the step-by-step realism tattoo tutorials here, and drop your feedback in the comments.